Hello there. Welcome once again to another lesson in English language. I hope you are doing well and keeping safe, which is very important. So this week is going to be our last lesson. This is our very last lesson in English language for term 3. It means that we are almost done with term 3. Yes. So what I mean by we are almost done is we still have our exams, and next week we're going to do a bit of revision. But before we start, I'd like to encourage all of us that our exams is going to be like our normal exams that we do in class, but this time it's just going to be so we are not going to have a composition sort of test. So it's going to be basically everything grammar. So I encourage that you read your grammar notes, and it's not going to be on just third term. I'm talking about our examination. It's not going to be on only third term topics. It's going to range from first to third term. So I encourage that you read your notes thoroughly, from the nouns to the pronouns to the verbs that we did, everything that we've done in grade 3. I encourage that you read everything thoroughly. I hope you've not forgotten, but just for reminders to activate your minds, I encourage that you go back to your notes. You have the notes, make sure you read them, and you are very okay with your notes. Everything, I mean every topic that we've treated, make sure that you go over your notes, because our exams is going to range from our first term topics to third term. So please do well and read your notes. Start now. Don't wait till next week for you to start reading your notes. Start now so that they don't jam up on you, or yes, they don't jam up on you. So make sure that you read them now. So we are closing the chapter for third term with the topic idiomatic expressions. So last week we started something on idiomatic expressions, and then in there we talked about what idiomatic expressions are, and then we gave some idiomatic expressions and their meanings, and then using them in sentences. I do hope that you've gone through your notes for last week and you are conversant with everything in there. The notes were self-explanatory, so I hope that you are conversant with everything in there and then it was simple for you. So we are going to do a continuation of last week's lesson today, and I hope that today is going to be as fun as it was last week. So like I mentioned earlier, we are going to do a continuation of last week's lesson, which was on idiomatic expressions, and we ended at some idiomatic expressions and their meanings. We are going to do a continuation of that. But last week I also mentioned that you take your Student's Companion, page 59 of your Student's Companion, and from page 58 to I think page 61 of your Student's Companion. From page 58 to 61 of your Student's Companion, there are a whole lot of idiomatic expressions in there. Now we have about 122 idiomatic expressions. Now I didn't even see the need of me compiling these notes, since you have your Student's Companion and you could just read them there. But all the same, we're going to look at quite a few of them more, and then I advise that, like I said last week, take your Student's Companion and go through the idioms you have there. go through the idioms you have there. Since you have the notes, I don't see the need of me writing everything again. But you have the student's companion and you can just go through them in your students. Because I really advise that you go through them in your students companion. If you don't have, kindly tell mom or dad to get it for you so that you can learn them. They are very important. They help us a lot in our everyday English. So please do well. If you don't have the student's companion, kindly tell mom and dad to get it for you. So we are continuing our lesson on some idiomatic expressions and their meaning. I'm going to state a few of them and then state their meaning. Then we put them in a sentence. So the first idiom we are looking at today is the idiom live a cat and dog's life. Live a cat and dog's life. Now this idiom means to live a life full of quarrels. Now this is a bit relatable, like it's something we can all relate to. We know that cats and dogs are sort of enemies. Like they don't see eye to eye. They are always at each other's neck. Like a cat and a dog, they don't even like each other that much. So now this idiom simply means that to live a life full of quarrel. Cats and dogs are always fighting. Wherever they meet, wherever they are always fighting. So live a cat and a dog's life simply means to live a life full of quarrels. Now let's look at it in an example. She and her sister are living a cat and dog's life. She and her sister are living a cat and a dog's life. Now this simply means that she and her sister, this person and her sister, are always quarreling. They are always at each other's neck. They are always in a quarreling mood. Always. They don't see eye to eye. They are practically like enemies. That is what it means. Now let's go to another idiom we have, which is a piece of cake. A piece of cake. Now what this means is that when it means an easy task, something that is very easy to do. Now let's look at this in an example. The English test was a piece of cake for me. Now what this means is that the English test was very simple. It was easy. It came so easy for me. I didn't stress doing the test. So that is what it means. Now let's look at another idiom. Never say die. The idiom never say die. Now what this means is that never give up. When you never say die, it means that you are not giving up. You never give up. Now let's look at it in an example. He never said die to any of his problems. He never said die to any of his problems. It means that he never gives up on any of his. But when he has a problem, he always sees that the problem is tackled. He sees the end to the problem. So that is what we mean by never say die. You never give up on that thing you are doing. Let's look at our next idiom, which is call it a day. Call it a day. Now call it a day means to stop working on something. So an example we have there is, we have been working on this from morning. Let's call it a day. We have been working on this from morning. Let's call it a day. So to put an end to work you are doing is what we call it a day. Now let's look at the next idiom we have there, which is get out of hand. when something gets out of hand. Now, what does it mean? For something to get out of control, get out of hand is for something to get out of control. So now when you don't have control over something or over a situation, it means that the thing have gotten out of your hand. Now let's look at an example. The issue has gotten out of hand. Now, I don't think we can come to an agreement. The issue has gotten out of hand now. I don't think we can come to an agreement. So this simply means that the issue at hand have gotten out of control. It has gotten out of my control. I don't think that we can come to an agreement. Let's continue with the idiom pull someone's leg. The idiom pull someone's leg. Now, to pull someone's leg is to joke with someone or joke with a person. Now, let's look at it in an example. Stop pulling my legs. Don't try to make a silly joke out of the whole situation. Stop pulling my legs. Don't try to make a silly joke out of the whole situation. So what it simply means is that there is a situation, this person is serious about the situation, and you are making a joke out of the whole situation. And this person is telling you that stop pulling my legs, stop joking about it. This situation is a serious one. I don't want you to make a joke out of it. So that is what pull someone's leg means, to make a joke out of something. Now, let's look at the next idiom we have in there. Long in the tooth. Long in the tooth. Now, what long in the tooth means is that to grow old or to become old. Let's look at it in an example. My grandmother is long in the tooth. What it simply means that my grandmother is an old woman, or my grandmother has grown old. Now, let's look at our next idiom, which is the idiom a bookworm. Now, when we say a bookworm, it's something that it's a phrase or an idiom that we mostly use in our schools, like in our classrooms and all that. When we say, oh, someone is a bookworm, now what it simply means is that someone who reads a lot, somebody who likes reading. You would always find this person's face in a book. So that is somebody we call a bookworm. You'd always find this person reading. They are always at the library. Their face is always glued to a book. So that is what we call, or someone we call, a bookworm. Now, let's look at it in an example. Asantua is the bookworm in our class. Now, I know that in our classes we have bookworms. There are people that are always glued, that have their faces always glued to their books. They are always reading. They are always going to the libraries. Yes, so those people we call bookworm. Now let's look at the next idiom, which is to keep a close watch. To keep a close watch. Now when we say to keep a close watch, it means that to look after something very well. Look after something very well. So when you are keeping a close watch on something, it means that you are looking after that thing very well. You are taking care of that thing very well. Now let's look at it in an example. The man was advised to keep a close watch over his children. The man was advised to keep a close watch over his children. Now what this simply means is that he was advised to always take care of his children, to look after his children very well. Take good care of his children. That is what it simply means. Now let's look at the last idiom we have there. In hot water. The idiom in hot water. Now what this idiom means is that to be in trouble. When you are in hot water, means you are in trouble. You know how hot water can really hurt you? Yes. So when we say in hot water, it means that you are in trouble. Now let's look at it in an example. You'll be in hot water if you don't do your homework. So you'll be in trouble if you don't do your homework. That is what it simply means. So soon we've come to the end of today's lesson, and I know today's lesson is a bit shorter than usual, but because I want you to use the extra time that you have for English. English is supposed to, like, our class is supposed to be like 1 hour class. So the remaining time, I want you to use it to learn the idiomatic expressions in your student's companion. Now, I've stated clearly and boldly the page number in our slides. Page 58 to 61 of your student's companion. There are a whole lot of, like I stated, there are so many of them. So many of them. I encourage you to read them, learn them. You're not just reading, learn them, know your idioms. They are very important. Now, why it is important to know your idiom is that it's not because just for examination sake or anything. What idiom does is that it makes your English richer. You build upon your English, your language becomes rich. So if you are talking to somebody and you are using your idioms, this person is going to think, oh, this person has control over the English language. This person is very good with the language. The person is going to, oh, you are talking maturely. So idioms are very important. They are very important in our everyday English. Make sure you learn each and every idiom you have in your student's companion. If there is something you don't understand, ask someone, ask an elderly person, ask your mom or dad, and I'm sure they would explain them to you. But please and please again, go through your idioms in your student's companion. The page number is there. Use the time to go through the rest of the idioms. The idioms in your students will use the time to read and learn them. Also, learn how to use them in your sentences. You're not just reading, but then learn to use them in sentences as well. So we've come to the end of today's lesson, which is the end of term 3. End of term 3. I'm so excited. I'm very excited. I wish we could have done this face to face in school, where I'm looking at you and you're also looking at me. This would have been a very exciting class, and I'm so happy we got to do this together. I got to do this with you guys. You guys have been amazing. It's been an amazing 3 times with you. 3 times. I know this term wasn't like we were all expecting. We weren't expecting this, that we'll be doing our class online and all of that. But this pandemic and yes, this whole situation should teach us is that things happen. Anything can happen in life. So when things happen, these are some of the things that can happen in life. You can never predict life. Sometimes life is unpredictable. Things happen and then you have to live to adjust to life. Yes. So this is one of the things that we have to do now. For now, but I'm hopeful that with time we are going to get back to school, and we're going to see each other again with time. Thank you for learning with me, And thank you for being so amazing. You guys are being so amazing. And thank you once again for being so good to me. I'll see you in our next class, which will be our revision class next week. Thank you so much for learning with me today. I'm your teacher, Miss Tanti Buchi. I'll see you in our next class. It is bye.